Morning and welcome to the second in a series of a brief history of videos. It's a series where I want to look back at old electric vehicles that have gone beyond the concept phase. They've been designed and built and manufactured and sold really well. And the reason I want to look at them is because, in my opinion, these vehicles have really made a difference. They've really evolved how we look at electric vehicles and made a difference, hopefully, not only today, but also in the future towards our sustainable transportation. So what I'd like to do today is look at a Bavarian city car and how it came about for BMW. The BMW i3. It really has got an iconic design. But in order to fully understand where that design came from, we first need to look back in history at BMW's other attempts at making electric cars. So let's go back to 1972 and the 1602E. It used 12-volt batteries and was good for 37 miles, which caused BMW a little bit of a headache, as in the 1972 Olympics it was used to lead a pack of long-distance runners, and they weren't sure whether it was going to reach the end. 1975 saw the development of the LS Electric. It had a top speed of 40 miles an hour and a range of just 19 miles, powered by 10 lead-acid batteries. On to 1987, and BMW converted 8 325i coupes to full electric, giving them a 93 miles of range and front-wheel drive. 3 of them had touring bodies, and they were used by the Deutsche Post Office. The rest were all given to government employees. In 1991, BMW produced the prototype E1. It went 150 miles, but it was never produced. And then between 1992 and 1997, BMW tried 2 different types of batteries, the sodium nickel chloride battery and a nickel cadmium battery. These batteries were trialled in 25 BMW 325s. The maximum they could go was 93 miles with a top speed of 84 miles an hour. Finally, in 2008, BMW launched their first full electric vehicle. It was a Mini E, and just over 600 people were lucky enough to be able to lease one. It cost $850 a month, which is about £630, and it included the charging and insurance. They could travel up to 100 miles and a 3-hour charge time on the correct charge point. Around the same time, BMW also released a special 1 Series. It was project named Active E, and about 1,000 of them were leased between the USA and Europe. They could go 100 miles, top speed of 90 miles an hour. And I don't think it's any secret that between these 2 vehicles, BMW saw them as a testbed in preparation for the i3. The data from these tests showed that the batteries would only be recharged every 2 to 3 days, sufficient for somebody to commute backwards and forwards to work. The project, now known as Mega City Car, was styled in the main by Richard Kim. He worked under head of design Benoit Jacobs, and they wanted to make the whole of the car very simple and very sustainable. So they came up with the Life Drive system. This system is essentially 2 parts. The drive system is the bottom part. It encompasses the battery, the motors, all the heavy pieces of equipment that effectively make a car work are sat along the bottom. The life module, the piece that sits on top, is the cabin, all the extras. And I think over time what they envisaged was that this module could be interchangeable. Many have likened it to a skateboard in that the bottom does all the work and the top, well, anything can go on that. The shell of the life pod is made from carbon fibre. It's very light and very strong. And then inside the cabin, a number of sustainable materials were used, including hemp in the door panels. By the end of 2010, the general feel, look and design of the vehicle had been agreed. So they began building prototypes and were able to go out and start testing them. This leads us to 2012. And the Los Angeles Motor Show, where BMW show off their concept coupe study in the form of their Mega City Car, which is released under the I project. Later that same year, BMW opened an I-branded store in London. Being 2012, the Olympics had come to London, and not wishing to miss out on some of that limelight, BMW placed their new i3 at centre stage. in amongst all that glitz and glamour, I think we see a car that looks very much like the full production car that we see on the roads today. In March of 2013, BMW take the i3 to the Geneva Motor Show. There they pick up their first award. The i3 wins the Car Design of the Year for incorporation of sustainability in all facets of the interior and exterior design. They must have had an exceptionally large trophy to fit all that on. And then finally, on the 29th of July 2013, with the design finally agreed and all the manufacturing processes worked out, the BMW i3 is launched simultaneously in New York, London and Beijing. Before we get carried away with the glitz and glamour of the initial release and then the sales figures that followed, what I want to do is just have a look at part of the manufacturing that took place, because it's really interesting. It was something that had never been done before. It was around that plastic reinforced carbon fibre that they used within the car. It was mainly used in the life part of the module, and in order to produce it, it took vast amounts of energy, something that obviously didn't fit with the sustainable nature of the car that BMW were trying to build. They obviously identified quite early on that if they tried to produce that product wholly in Germany, it wasn't going to work. They didn't have a sustainable way of doing it. So they started to look elsewhere, and they came up with a solution in America. It was on Moses Lake in Washington, and well, I'll tell you what, let's go back to 2013 and the plant manager, Steve Swanson, see if he can explain it better than me for you.
We had to select a site and an area that could provide a low-cost, energy-efficient, sustainable power supply. This is a fantastic place. 3 years ago, a site selection committee searched the globe for the location of our new site. We chose Moses Lake for various reasons: the exceptional workforce, land availability, and of course the main reason, the hydropower. The Columbia River Basin is the most hydroelectrically developed river system in the world. The Wanapum and Priest Rapids dams provide a low-cost, renewable energy source for the Moses Lake facility that fits well with our sustainability model.
So with that, BMW were able to keep their green credentials intact, but that's only a very small part of the story. The original raw materials come from Japan. They're shipped to Moses Lake, where they're produced into carbon fibre. That carbon fibre is then shipped to Landshut in Germany, where the carbon fibre is fabricated into, on the whole, the life module that we saw. That life module is then shipped across to another factory in Germany. The Leipzig factory, which is where a number of other BMWs are produced, including the 1 and 2 series, is where all the parts are put together and ultimately the i3 made. The factory itself is situated south of Berlin in Germany and boasts of being one of the most modern, sustainable factories in the world. Back now to the 29th of September 2013 and the very first i3 that rolled off the production line. It was handed over by BMW to Jan Fitschen, the very well-known German marathon runner. He promptly had a drive around town, took it to the Berlin Marathon and handed it over to the race director. Clearly this was good publicity for BMW. It would be nice to think that it was a nod back to 1972 and that 1602E that went to the 1972 Olympics. But I suspect it was more a case of BMW was sponsoring the event and it was a good way of getting publicity for their new car. After the success of the marathon, the first retail units were sold to the public on the 15th of November that year. They came with 2 battery sizes, a 22 and a 33 kilowatt-hour battery. They both did just over or just under 100 miles, about 160 kilometres respectively. But BMW recognised that although they had built a city car, and they had made no secret of the fact from the start that this car was to be used in and around towns and cities, they were acutely aware that perhaps that range wasn't going to be enough for everybody. And whilst they didn't want to produce a car that had a vast amount of extra range that could be relied on every day, they identified that actually an additional option to have a small generator within the car to produce more electric if required could actually help promote their sales. So with that in mind, they also released one with a range extender, or REX. This was a small petrol-driven engine which acted as a generator to produce more electricity. The range extender itself is actually an internal combustion engine taken straight from the BMW C650 GT Maxi scooter. It's been remapped for the i3 and produces 34 horsepower. The unit itself sits on the drive platform within the car, and when required will quietly and efficiently start up and begin generating electricity that goes back into the battery pack to extend the range. European models can hold 9 litres of fuel, where US models can only hold 7.2. This was due to very stringent laws in California governing zero and low emissions cars. Ultimately, this has now been resolved, and i3s that are sold in the US come with the same size fuel tank as they do everywhere else in the world. During this process of change in 2016, a lawsuit was taken out against BMW. Suffice to say, it all got a little bit sticky for them for a while, but that has now all been sorted out and probably warrants a video all on its own. And so 5 years on from its release and some minor updates and changes over those years, the BMW i3 has very much stayed the same car that it was when it was released back in 2013, which has led many to believe that perhaps it's run its course, perhaps it's time for something new now, and BMW are going to start looking to the future and maybe just drop the i3 from their range. But for me, the i3, it will always remain an iconic car, something that will go down in history alongside the likes of the Nissan Leaf and the Renault Zoe. These were the first electric cars that really pushed the boundaries and brought them to the masses. I honestly believe that without these cars we would see very, very few electric cars on the roads at all today. So BMW are to be congratulated for really taking a chance and pushing the i3 and making it the absolutely brilliant car it's become. And as for the future, well, you can be assured that whatever BMW decide to replace it with, it will be very high quality, it will be something that is ultimately quite a sustainable car, and it will be reassuringly expensive. So that brings today's video to an end. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's been a little bit different, I know, but I've really enjoyed researching it because I find these original electric cars absolutely fascinating how they came about. And there's always some hidden stories behind the car that we see on the road. If you have enjoyed it, remember to like and share it. And if you're not doing so already, subscribe to the channel. And until next time, you take care. Bye-bye. Whilst making this video, I've tried to attribute credit to those responsible for helping me with my research. It wasn't always possible to find the person responsible for making the content that I used. Should you be able to identify anyone that I have missed, then please let me know. As always, the interaction after these videos with subscribers in the comments section is what makes this channel so exciting for me. But if you want to support it further, then please feel free to click on the button in the top left-hand corner and follow the link to my Patreon page, where you'll find details about how you can support the channel.